Broadcasting live from Jerusalem, this is Voice of Israel, Israel's premier English language broadcast network. Voice of Israel, bringing Israel closer.
Mr. Prime Minister, your Likud party is currently down in the polls, even according to the Likud's internal polls. If you don't end up winning this election, with the Iran threat being so serious now, do you believe that Israel could be destroyed?
I think our security is at great risk because there's a real danger that we could lose this election. If the gap between the Likud and Labor continues to grow, then Herzog, you'll find a week from now, Herzog and Livni becoming the prime ministers of Israel in rotation with the backing of the Arab parties. That will cause such a monumental shift in policy that it will endanger the security of Israel. And anybody who wants to stop it has to do a simple thing. It is to vote for Likud to narrow the gap. I don't think there's a privilege now to vote for other parties. If you vote for Beit Yehudi, you bring down the Likud mandates. That will bring in Tzipi and Bougie into the prime minister's office. If you vote for Lieberman or Kachlon, you bring down the Likud mandates. That can bring in Tzipi and Kachlon. And we have to also remember that both Bennett and Lieberman did not commit to both Lieberman and Kachlon did not commit to not going to recommending me for prime minister, and they could very well go with the left. So the only way to prevent this government, a left government, with Tzipi and Bougie as prime ministers, backed by the Arabs, is to vote for Likud.
And if you have them in power as prime minister on the Iranian threat, are we in trouble?
Of course we're in trouble, because they have said on separate occasions that maybe the deal isn't so bad, we could live with the deal. They have done everything in their power to criticize instead of support me as I faced enormous pressure and went to explain Israel's opposition to the deal, a deal that could give Iran an easy path to the bomb and pose an existential threat to the future of Israel. Not only have they not supported me, they've done everything in their power to say that on something like this, we should bow our heads to the United States, to the position, the formal position of the United States. Now, let me say this. I have great respect for the presidency, for President Obama, the presidency of the United States. I have great confidence in our alliance that it can weather these disagreements. But when the security of Israel and the existence of Israel requires me as prime minister to take a stance that is contrary to the one that is put forward by the President of the United States, that's what I'm here for. That's what a leader of Israel has to do.
And Herzog can't stand up for Obama?
They can't stand up for a second. They won't stand up for a millisecond. They have zero leadership. They believe that the only thing they have to do is say yes to any demand that comes from even the best of our allies. And the answer is no, we shouldn't. We should do whatever we can to maintain the relations with the United States, which something that I deeply believe in. But we should also know to draw the line when things that could endanger us are on the table, like the nuclear deal with Iran, like the insistence on going back to the 67 lines and building another Hamastan here, like the demand that will come to divide Jerusalem. We have to stand up against these things. That's what the Prime Minister of Israel is elected for. And I'll tell you something else. I think in the United States, people respect that. Ultimately, our alliance benefits from that. Because if there's one thing that I notice in the tremendous reception that I got from the Congress speech, contrary to all the prognostications, all the warnings, I was warmly received, both sides of the House, a massive showing of support across partisan lines, because people respect the Prime Minister who stands up for the State of Israel. And you're not going to get that with Tzipi and Bougie. You'll get, in fact, Prime Ministers who completely prostrate themselves before every pressure. I don't think that not only can they not stand the pressure, they don't want to stand up to the pressure. They just want to yield and give in because they think that the way to secure our existence is by giving in to Arab demands and being less demanding ourselves against the Iranian nuclear program.
On the Palestinian issue, it's been reported that President Obama intends to make a very serious effort in his last 22 months in office to try to force through some kind of plan that would make Israel have to make a lot of concessions. how will you be able to stand up to that pressure for Barack Obama to get his place in history as the man who made the deal?
I've been Prime Minister for 9 years, and I've shown, I think, a proven capacity to withstand pressures, to stand up for the interest of Israel in a careful and responsible way, and sometimes just stating our position outright, galvanizing supporters not only in Israel, but of course in the United States of America and elsewhere. In the United States, the support for Israel is at record highs, despite the differences that we've had with the administration. It's never been as high. After my speech in Congress, polls show that an enormous, over 70% of the American people agree that this agreement will not stop Iran's, the impending agreement will not stop Iran's nuclear weapons. I have shown that capacity to stand up to pressure. I think it should be understood that if Tzipi and Bougie form a government with the support of the Arab parties and Lapid, this will be a moot question. They're not even going to try. They'll just capitulate in advance.
So inside America...
And that is what this election is really about. All the other things will be pushed away. And it's happened before. You know, when voters of the national camp didn't understand that they have to support Likud, they paved the way to the left. That happened before in '92 when they went against Shamir and they got Oslo. That happened again in '99 when they didn't support me and they got Ehud Barak and the Camp David talks that only because Arafat refused to take everything that he was offered, we were momentarily saved. Everything that you say is true. Yes, there will be pressures to withdraw to the 67 lines and divide Jerusalem. Yes, there will be pressures. There are pressures now to relinquish our opposition to the Iranian deal. And all of that will happen if the nationalist camp voters do not vote for the Likud. Because if the gap between the Likud and Labor is not shrunk, then Bougie and Tzipi will be here with the support of the Arabs, will capitulate on all fronts.
But there have been reports that you yourself capitulated during the negotiations during those 9 months, that there were documents that were published. Was there any validity to any of it? I mean, you were negotiating, and presumably
it's utterly false.
You were giving.
That's utterly false. These were American positions. They weren't my positions. I made it clear time and again that I refuse to divide Jerusalem. I'll always keep it united. That I refuse to go back to the 67 lines. That I demand that the Palestinians give up the right of return. Those were my positions. Those are my positions. And in fact, this is the reason we didn't get anywhere, because I stuck to these positions.
Now, there's about to be an American presidential campaign in the United States. We all know you have good relations with the Republican Party. We all know you have good relations with some Democrats more than others. How's your relationship with Hillary Clinton, the presumed frontrunner in the race, if she runs?
Well, first of all, the relationship is good, and the relationship is good with everyone. I don't see our relations in the United States as based on partisan lines. I made that very clear in my speech in Congress. And I think the reception I got in Congress from both Democrats and Republicans attests to the validity of that point. I think there's a broad swath of support for Israel across party lines in the United States. I welcome that, and that will continue under my administration with whoever becomes the next president. But to do that requires that we form the government. Now, and that is not at all obvious. I would say that is in great peril right now.
Now, you've talked about a global campaign to try to bring you down. Right. Who are these people around the world that are uniting against you? Are they just rich people in the United States? Are they foreign leaders? Who's actively trying to take you out of this office?
There's a massive effort of millions of dollars, even tens of millions of dollars to some estimates, to mobilize first the Arab vote, the Israeli Arabs, to get them to vote in much larger numbers, because they know that they will recommend Bougie Herzog and form a blocking coalition with him. It's a massive effort. We only see a small part of that glacier, above the water, but it's
Are there
huge.
Names of people trying to bring?
There are individuals. Some of them are known, but they're not fully listed. There are some governments that are involved that are supporting various efforts to that effect.
Obama?
There is an effort all over the place to mobilize the V-15, to mobilize left of center voters. Again, huge investments, foreign consultants, droves of them, who are coming here with
Barack Obama's field director is involved in V15. Is that an intervention in Israeli politics by the administration in Washington?
The fact is that consultants and advisors are here, and the money is flowing here. And none of that is coming to help the Likud win. Everything is coming in, is flowing in to make the Likud lose and bring Tzipi and Bougie to government. And therefore, the only answer we have is not tens of millions of dollars, and not droves of consultants, and not all sorts of secret dealings. The only thing we have is the ability to get the voters of the National Bloc to vote for the Likud. Right now, there's an effort. That effort is helped by, it's not only a foreign effort, it's also a local effort, led by Noni Moses, Yediot Achronot, and Ynet. And their effort is to create as big a gap between Likud and Labor. And therefore, they don't care if votes go to Kahlon, who's number 2, by the way, Gallant. Yoav Gallant said the other day that he's already made a deal with Herzog. I don't know if it's true, but he's not committed to support us. So those votes can go there, can go to the left. The same thing applies to Lieberman, who did not commit to recommend me or to form a government with me. Those votes too can go to.
But what's wrong with fundraising?
And the same is true. The same is true of the Beit Yehudi voters, not because they'll go to the left, but because they'll take down the Likud mandates. And that is the principal goal right now of the international effort, of the local press and political effort inside. Drive down the Likud numbers. If you drive down the Likud numbers, Tzipi and Bougie will sit in the Prime Minister's office from next week on.
But what's wrong with raising money abroad? American Jews can have an impact on our race. You yourself, when you raise money for your own political campaigns, raise money exclusively from Jews in the diaspora, not here.
Well, the procedures in primaries are well regulated. Everybody knows what they are, and the money is a pittance compared to the millions and tens of millions of dollars that flow here. And I wouldn't make any comparison between the two. Here, there's a clear effort to cleverly evade the election laws and try to buy the election with these circumventions. That's basically what is happening here. And there's no comparison to that with raising a few dollars for primaries, especially because I don't want to be beholden to Israeli tycoons and to business leaders. I want, as far as possible, to receive the modest support that is given for primaries from people who do not have business interest here, because I've taken care of the Israeli economy, because I've done here the reforms that have made Israel grow. I've made it possible for the Israeli economy to rise in GDP per capita and beat Cyprus and Greece and Italy and Spain, and soon will overtake France, to create hundreds of thousands of jobs, to bring the unemployment rate to the lowest it's been, to pave a network of highways and rail lines that are connecting Israel as never before, to block the borders from any infiltration. Israel is the only country that succeeded in controlling its borders against illegal immigration. These are some of the things. We've done dozens and dozens of things that have changed the landscape of the Israeli economy, the landscape of Israel, have created a real future, a real technological, free market powerhouse. That's the reforms that we did. Can you name me one reform that Tzipi and Bougie have done? You can name me one reform that Kahlon did, but it was my reform, according to his own testimony. He says, I couldn't have done the reform on the cellular prices without Netanyahu. His own words. It's his spirit, it's his backing, correct. And we did the same. In public transportation, we opened it. In flights, international flights, we opened it to competition. So, in the fixed phone markets, in the international phone markets,
I know you want to
introduced competition in this economy because that's what I believe, and I'll continue to do that. Although we have a lot to do, we still have things to do in the housing market. We haven't finished that. That's important. But we can only do that if the Likud forms the government. And if we don't form the government, then the statist, government-controlled economy that labor believes in will be the, I would say, the added blow that the people of Israel receive in addition to their capitulations on the political and security fronts. And that's something the people of Israel, many people in Israel, don't want. If they want to prevent it, they have to vote Likud.
But it's looking like it will be the president who will say the Likud and the Zionist Union, Labor, have to run the country together. Yeah, perhaps he might give you the right to initially form the government, but he'll say, okay, in addition to your right-wing partners, the people of Israel want the Zionist Union to be there as well. If he does that, how will you prevent it?
The decision on which government is formed is made by 61 or more Knesset members. They're the ones who make that decision. But to get the right to form such a government, you need to have many more Likud votes than now appears in the polls. And that decision, I think, is the most critical decision. Who gets the right to form the government? I don't believe in a unity government because a gulf exists between us and Labor. It's not the Labor Party that I remember. We had many differences with them on free market economy and on security. But we didn't see in previous years the anti-Zionist element that has now permeated Labor, the new Knesset members, the activist part of this new party, despite their name, is not a Zionist camp. It's an anti-Zionist camp. When they tell you that Hatikva is a racist anthem, when they tell you that mothers should not send their children to the army, when they tell you that Zionism doesn't speak for me, they're telling the truth. They don't publish in the Arab press their name as the Zionist camp. That doesn't appear there, and that's the truth. So when you have a party that has essentially got a big section in there that is anti-Zionist, no unity government will stick, won't hold, and therefore there's no point in trying.
Well, the reason why there's a point in trying is you could build a coalition with your 61 from the right and Moshe Kachlon, whatever he is on the political map.
He makes a commitment that is contrary to what Gallant said, that he'll go with the left.
So if you get that
so far
right,
he hasn't said that.
And you build your coalition of the right and the ultra-Orthodox, then you can add Labor afterward into a Likud-led government that would make it wider and more stable and present an image of unity around the world when we're facing an Iranian threat.
Yeah, I doubt very much that Labor will be there because I think that they're actually controlled by this extreme anti-Zionist camp that has now become the most active part of its registered voters. That's where the energy is. That's where their passions are. The passions are, in fact, in the non-Zionist part of Labor. That's been the change, and it's a regrettable change, but it's a fact.
So a lot of the people who read the Jerusalem Post and are seeing this video on the website are concerned that the ultra-Orthodox will be part of the government and not only withdraw the draft bill, but also there's been changes that have helped Reform and conservative Jews in Israel. Funding for rabbis, a prayer area near the Western Wall for egalitarian prayer.
That was my decision, if you don't mind.
Okay, so you did it. Will you allow them to take it back because they're part of your government?
I haven't. In fact, in my own governments, successively, I've always struck a balance between our respect for the diversity in the Jewish world, in the diaspora, and in Israel, and the importance of continuing our traditions. It's a fine balance. I began with the Ne'eman Commission on the question of reform in my first term. I proceeded to do that with now with the Sharansky Commission on the Temple Wall. These are creative solutions that address the proper balance between tradition and change. And Judaism has always known how to balance the inclusivity with exclusivity. It's a very important balance that we have to maintain. But I think also that I've addressed other parts of this. I've asked the Haredi community to join in the economy, and it's changed dramatically under my terms, both as Prime Minister and Finance Minister. I've created the Nachal Haredi, which is a great change in which they actually come into national service. So I've wanted to have these changes brought through agreement, through consensus as far as possible, and not through a clash which doesn't serve our people. When we have so many enemies seeking to annihilate us, believe me, they don't draw a difference between orthodox and secular. For them, we all have to be extricated from here. Under those circumstances, I think my policy of respecting diversity and traditions at the same time and moving forward carefully is the one policy that will continue. And by the way, I don't hear any of our opponents saying that they will exclude Haredi parties. They don't say that.
Okay, thank you.
Because their passion, their real passion, is to retreat. To retreat on the territorial front, to retreat on the security front vis-a-vis Iran, to bow their heads and hope that somebody will pat them on the back. That's basically their concept of statesmanship. That's their concept of leadership. It's not mine. The days when the Jews bow their heads are over. And to the extent that it depends on me, they'll never come back. But it really depends on the outcome of the vote. Everybody knows, outside of Israel, inside of Israel, that the critical question that will determine if the left comes to power with the backing of the Arabs, if Tzipi Livni becomes the Prime Minister of Israel and Bougie Herzog, it is really the question of what is the gap between Likud and Labor. That's what it boils down to. There is simply no privilege for anyone in the national camp to vote for any party other than Likud, given the reality of what I just said.
Okay. Thank you very much
Thank you.
for this video interview.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Diker, host of National Security here at Voice of Israel. If you like what you just saw, click on the links below. Get great exclusive content here on VOI.